Hi everyone and welcome to my How to Survive Mercury Retrograde video. In this video I'm going to give you tips on not just surviving Mercury Retrograde but also how to thrive during Mercury Retrograde, because the truth is not all is bad. Mercury goes retrograde roughly 3 to 4 times a year depending on the year, and it lasts for around 3 weeks at a time. You've been surviving Mercury retrogrades long before you knew what they were. However, now that you are conscious of Mercury retrograde, you probably want to know, what should you do, what shouldn't you do, and also how to make the most out of this period, because you don't just want to feel frustrated for these 3 weeks, 3 to 4 times a year. So that is what this video is for. Let me know in the comments what you find out in this video, anything new, and also feel free to share your tips as well, because I would love to hear them. So why does the planet Mercury affect us? What does it rule? Mercury is the planet of communication, of transport, and technology. So you can see those 3 things play heavy roles in our lives. So communication with others can obviously be misinterpreted during this time. Maybe there's tensions or conflicts. Families usually have some big arguments during Mercury retrograde. I know I've definitely experienced that in my own. And also, like I said, because Mercury rules transport, you might find that there's delays on the roads, cancellations to trips. Some people get scared about traveling during Mercury retrograde, but it is safe to do that. It's just a time of double checking the details, but I'll go through that later on in this video. And finally, technology. So because Mercury also rules technology, you might find that your emails stop working, maybe your phone starts playing up. There can be some technological mishaps during this time frame as well. But now I'm going to get stuck into my tips to help you survive and thrive during Mercury retrograde. So hopefully this gives you some really useful insights. Tip number 1, slow down. It's really important that we move at the speed of the astrological events taking place. Because if, planets are retrograde and we're trying to move really, really quickly, we'll find that that is where we run into the most frustrations, the most roadblocks. So if you can slow down during this period and just really focus on being patient and using this as an opportunity to practice gratitude for what you already have, you'll find yourself much less frustrated. And also it means that any delays and stuff won't affect you as much. Something that I've been working on during my new moon and full moon workshops with people is just how to move at the speed that, the universe wants us to move at. How to go with the flow and work with the cycles. And Mercury retrograde is exactly the same. When we can let ourselves slow down, especially with those 3 areas, technology, communication, and transport, we can really experience a lot more relaxation during this time. You'll find that if you, make more time and you're patient, then actually it won't have that negative impact on you. Tip number 2, finish old projects. So Mercury retrograde really isn't the time to start new things. I say that you want to focus on those RE words. So reevaluation, revisiting, reflecting. Anything that starts with RE, they are your keywords for Mercury retrograde. So as you can see, you don't really want to begin new projects, but you can reflect on them. So, if you want to start something new, then maybe just use this time frame to plan that. However, this is the perfect time to think back to all those projects you put on the back burner. So everything that you started, which you never got round to completing, this is your time to do it. I love using this 3-week period to put a to-do list together of everything which I just need to finish, which I've maybe been leaving for months or even years. It could be things that you started a long, long time ago and you might be really inspired to finish it now. So get your to-do list together and just imagine how satisfied you are going to feel at the end of Mercury retrograde when you have ticked off so many of those things which have been on your to-do list for some time. Tip number 3, clean up and get organised. So because Mercury rules the sign of Virgo as one of its signs, this means that it's a good time to look at those Virgo qualities, so organisation. So you might want to use these 3 weeks to get organised around your home. So going through old possessions, deciding what you want to get rid of, and, you know, just kind of like getting everything nice and ready so that when Mercury is direct again, everything is in order. You know, you feel like you've got some organisation in your space. You feel like you've had a good clear out of the old and you're ready to just like experience this new energy coming in. Tip number 4, revisit old connections. So, I'm sure you've all experienced during Mercury retrograde when people pop up from your past. I get it every single time. All sorts of weird and wonderful people send me a message out of nowhere. Now, some of those people I absolutely want to keep the door closed to, and I am not inviting them back in. However, you might find that during these 3 weeks, some people from your past do start coming into your consciousness. You find yourself thinking a lot about old friends or old connections, and this is a really wonderful time to reconnect with those people. So if you want to send a message to someone from your past, then, you know, this is the perfect time to do it. And you can always, you know, rethink this when Mercury goes direct and decide, do I want this person permanently back in my life, or was it just like a nice quick catch up? So, you know, you don't have to make permanent decisions, but if you are thinking about someone a lot, then maybe this is a really, really good time to reach out to them, have a quick check-in and see whether you can rekindle that relationship or not. Tip number 5, try not to break up. So guys, if you're in a relationship, then try not to break up with your partner during Mercury retrograde, and here's why. Because Mercury retrograde can cause those communication misunderstandings, you might find yourself arguing with your partner a lot during these 3 weeks. You might find that, you know, you're being misunderstood, things could be being misinterpreted. There might be a lot of tension which comes to the surface during conversations, but it's not the time to make major decisions around relationships. For starters, if you do find yourself breaking up during Mercury retrograde, the chances are you'll get back together with this person anyway. So instead, you want to use these 3 weeks to think about things and kind of slow down relationships, making sure you're communicating clearly, and then you can make your decisions when Mercury goes direct. Also, whilst I said in tip number 4 about this is a good time to revisit old connections, if you do find an ex coming back into your life during Mercury retrograde, it is not the time to get back together. Instead, use these 3 weeks to reconnect and kind of, you know, decide what it is you want to happen. And then when Mercury goes direct, you can make your decisions then. So it is really, really likely that exes do start popping up during Mercury retrograde, but this is a chance to kind of reflect on that relationship. And like I said, it only lasts 3 weeks, so all your decisions can definitely wait until Mercury's direct again. Tip number 6, check communication. So this means checking that your emails have sent and they're not just stuck in your outbox. Making sure that any messages you send have the right name, details in, such as dates, times. Just double check everything which you write. Also, make sure you're checking the communication you receive. Have you got all the details you need? And if someone does say something which, you know, could be kind of misinterpreted, or maybe something which is got the wrong information in during Mercury retrograde, just be patient with them, because we know that this 3 weeks does cause those communication mishaps. So it's so easy to make mistakes. So yeah, just have a little bit of patience for people and try to understand what is going on. Also, make sure you're checking communication with those you care about. So let's avoid arguments here. Let's think before we speak, making sure that you really think about what it is you want to say and how is the best way to say it to that individual. I actually think this is such a good time for communication, because whilst things may be misinterpreted, it means that we have to think about what we say, which I know a lot of us often don't. I always try to be mindful of my words, but I'm only human. So I think Mercury retrograde gives me a good time to improve my communication with others and make sure that I am being understanding and compassionate and really saying what I mean as well. Tip number 7, check your travel plans. So during Mercury retrograde, people sometimes worry about traveling. You don't have to avoid traveling completely, but if you do have a trip planned, then make sure you leave plenty of time just in case there are any delays. Make sure that you double and triple check all the details, have all your tickets and documents printed off ready. If you're, need your passport for it, if you're flying international, check you've got your passport with you. But yeah, just make sure you leave plenty of time for travel and trips during Mercury retrograde. And just be mindful that there might be some delays and cancellations. So try to be as patient as you possibly can. But, don't fear traveling during Mercury retrograde. Just make sure that you're just extra organized with it. So guys, thank you for watching my How to Survive Mercury retrograde video. If you follow these tips, I guarantee that these 3 weeks will not be a complete disaster. You'll actually find that it's a really good time to get some things done, and it can be really constructive. So let me know in the comments any tips and tricks that you have for Mercury retrograde. But it's not going to be a disaster. Stay positive. Remember that your thoughts manifest. So if you have a negative outlook on Mercury retrograde, then I guarantee you'll find yourself more frustrated. If you can be positive and just really try to slow down and enjoy these 3 weeks, then you'll actually find that, this could be one of your favorite times of the year. Trust me. I really enjoy Mercury retrograde, and it's because I know what this time is good for. I know what it's not good for. And if I can go with the flow and just really, move with that astrological event, then it is a really constructive time for me. So yeah, let me know your tips. I do hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'm going to be back next week with another how-to video.